Slate Blocks delivery to the concrete factory warehouse in Zherbai Quarries. Hello everybody and welcome to Overfed Gaming and another exciting episode of SnowRunner. I am the Overfed. Today we're driving our Derry Special 15C-177 and we are doing the one rock at a time task, which is part of the Zherbai District Mayor's Office contract. Wow, that's a long name. Anyhow, we're playing with some huge slate blocks that we're going to try and deliver up to the concrete factory warehouse with our Derry Special. We're at the bottom of the rock slate quarry, I believe is what it's called. And we got to go round and round a couple of times before we get to the top. And there's a few little trouble spots that we're going to encounter, but we wanted to try the Derry Special in this particular task because we wanted to push it to the limit. Now, as you can see, 3 of the 4 slate blocks have already been delivered. Now, when they say 3, that means 3 pallets of 2 blocks each. So I've already been down here and I've done this job with the plaid, I've done it with the Avonhorn, and now I can't remember the third truck. I think we used the Avonhorn twice. And then now we're using the Derry Special. We want to see if the Derry Special can do it. Because I think he's a very capable truck. Probably the only problem that I can foresee is the small tires and the low clearance. It doesn't have a lot of clearance. But other than that, short wheelbase, lots of power, very capable truck. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Right off the bat, we're going to have a little bit of a mud pit. Now, these blocks of slate on the back are very heavy, which does tend to raise the front of the truck up a little bit and cause a little bit of trouble with the steering. It does affect it, not a lot, but it does affect it some. You can feel it when there's nothing on the back. So keep that in mind when you're going up any kind of steep hill with some of these trucks. A lot of weight in the back, you lose your steering, especially when you go uphill. Anyhow, through that little mud pit wasn't much of a problem, but the problem that we're going to have with the Derry Special, I believe, is the boulders. I mean, there's quite a few laying around, as you can see. We can get over them and we can kind of grab and dig through them for the most part, but when they get to be a little bit too big, then you could get high centers. So you got to be careful that when you go over some of these rocks, the really big ones you should try and avoid if you can. You can't always avoid them, as you can tell. And there is a big one that kind of, I was just able to straddle that and go over top of it without too much trouble. But sometimes we're not always that lucky. Sometimes they're a little bit worse than that. Now, just up ahead here is going to be another one of our problems. It's hard to see on the video, but it's kind of a dip there, and you got to kind of go over to the right-hand side, and I don't quite go over far enough because it feels like you're going to fall down the hole if you go over too far to the right. So I stayed a little bit too far topside. Then I couldn't get by that little lip over there, and then I kind of get stuck here. Now, the Derry Special is one of the few trucks in the game that has a active suspension where you can at any time raise it or lower it to however the amount that it'll go. Now I kind of get stuck here with the nose end on those rocks there, so the only way I'm going to get off, because there's nothing to winch to, so that isn't going to help you, but my suspension, if I can lift that up, and we might just get off of that rock and break free. So we're going to give that a shot. Now, I don't like driving with the suspension up high when I'm carrying a heavy load like this, but we got to get it loose first. There we go. And then we got to go a little bit further to the right without going into the hole. Oh, accidentally let the horn go. Anyhow, we just make it over. Oh, whew, just made it. That was a tough one. So like I said, I don't like to keep the suspension up high when I have a heavy load on, especially a load that's high, because it already makes you sway back and forth, and there's a little top heavy. So we'll just put that suspension back down and continue along our path here. It's just a regular old sunny afternoon where we get to go and drive with a couple of big blocks of slate on the back of your truck, trying to get them out of the quarry as we try and navigate through all these obstacles. Another little mud pit, but that's not too much of a problem. Now we can always, if you do get stuck or it gets a little tight, we can always go to the high range of the low gear, which I don't seem to use too much in my other truck. I use them in the Avonhorn all the time, not in the other trucks, which I've got to start doing. Now here's a big crack in the rocks, which is a problem for single axle vehicles. Now we got the twin steer on the front and the twin axle on the back, so they kind of spread over top of that crack, so there's not too much of a problem for us. And another little mud pit. But the Derry Special is a very capable truck. I love driving this truck. I acquired it back in, I believe, was the Ontario region, and we put out a lot of fires with the water tanker on the back, and it was a lot of fun to drive. But it was a fairly flat area. It wasn't so many big boulders and up and down. But I wanted to see if he could come out and do some other jobs for us, so we can try and kind of trade trucks around. You don't want to drive the same truck all the time. You know, have a little bit of variety. Here's another little trouble spot, this corner where there's they left a bunch of boulders on the road. And you would think that in a quarry that they would at least keep the road kind of clear. You know, but they didn't, and there's a big rock. But we got by it, and we just slowly, it isn't the speed demon, the Derry Special. Even on the highway, on paved roads, it doesn't go abnormally fast, but that's the beauty of this truck. I mean, he goes a little slow, and then when you get to problem areas, he goes a little bit slower too, but he never stops. He never stops, and he keeps digging through until he gets to the other side. It's kind of like the Honey Badger, you know. But all the trucks that I have in my fleet are kind of like that. They don't know when to stop, so they keep going. They keep digging through, and I love that. I think this thing is just absolutely awesome to drive. But there again, you know, it's the job that's going to dictate which truck you're going to use and which one is going to stay in the garage for the day while you're accomplishing the task at hand. Well, we're getting close to the top. We're almost out of it. We got one more little steep climb just at the end of getting out of the quarry pit. But then we're still not out of it, because we got to get back to the main highway, and we got a little bit of four-wheeling to do yet. So we got a little ways to go yet, and a few little problem areas up ahead. But not really any of these little mud pits are not much of an issue. They do look good though, and they kind of drag you down a little bit, hold you back, but not too much of an issue for the Derry Special. They make you sway back and forth to make you feel like you're going to tip over, and that's just, it's a really odd feeling when you're playing the game and you're not even playing in VR, which SnowRunner doesn't have. You know, it feels odd when you're playing and you want the truck to tip back the other way, and you got your hands going and it's not moving for you. But this is an absolutely awesome trek coming out of here. Just got to get around those boulders. There we go. See, and the shorter wheelbase truck makes that a little bit easier. Now the Kenworth, being so long, would have a harder time getting through that back and forth. And there's a few places like that going up and down this quarry. Now I don't know, I can't remember what the other ones were like. There's two more on the map. We are in the Almaty region, and I can't remember if I forgot to say that maybe. And the other two quarries, I can't remember. I've dealt mostly with this one. We've been on the map now for a little while, and I find that when you go to a new map, the best thing always to do is clear the roads, clear landslides, build bridges, and get all those kinds of things working first, because that opens up the main arteries of that particular map. Then once you've done that, then you can start dabbling into the contracts like we're starting to do now. We've got a few more tasks to do at hand, and they'll be done in the next few days. And of course, as you know, the Opafit likes to drive when he can see everything nice and bright and cheery, and it looks good. Here's that last little climb I was telling you about, kind of like a Slate step ladder, but he just comes up to it, and he doesn't attack it any faster or slower. He just claws up there, no problem. Absolutely fantastic truck to use in certain situations like this. And there's all sorts of attachments for the Derry Special too. You can put service parts on it, maintenance, or you can put logging trailer, or the logging front end for long logs. You can put the medium set of logs on there, container, and lots of different things you can do with it. I prefer to have the crane with me at all times, so if I put a flat deck or anything on there, if anything happens, I can always pick it up with the crane. Or if there's a task where you need to pick something up off the ground, put the crane with you. So I really like that. That's a real cool preference that some trucks like the Avonhorn A15 does not have. He has a crane only when he uses the high saddle. But when you put the flat deck on him, he loses the space for the crane. But there again, sometimes you have to take the good with the bad. Now we got to turn really tight here. There's the other quarry. And I don't think we're going to make this here. So we should back up just in case that little bit. Yeah, there we go. Still cutting it pretty close there. You don't want to fall off there, because you fall off there, then even the crane is not going to do you much good, because your truck will flip and slate blocks will slide off the back. You'll be not in a very good position to finish the job. Now we got to get across this little bridge here. Because sometimes these little bridges you got to watch out, because you can see on the left-hand side, near the end of the bridge, there's a one log sticking up. Right there, and I've missed it, didn't see it, and I've driven over top of that log, and it lifts your truck right up. It just your truck just bounces up in the rear corner once it goes over the log. So do be careful of things like that. Every once in a while they pop up without you even realizing it, you know. Yeah, a little bit more of a mud pit. We love the mud pits in SnowRunner. If we can't give you pits with lots of snow in it and ice, then we'll give you pits with lots of mud in it. That's left over from the mud runner days, I suppose. It doesn't matter, because we will be back in the snow soon enough. So it's kind of nice having a break, driving around in snowless country in the hills here. It's kind of cool. There's one of the watchtowers that we did earlier on that we found. That lit up quite an area of the map over in this corner here. Shows you where you can go, where you can't go. And we're getting almost close to being out of the four-wheeling part. We've still got a little ways to go. But like I said, the quarry isn't the only hard part. This part is got some difficult stages in it too. But once you're out of this and you're back on the highway, then it's just a straight, easy drive with a couple of detours, and that's it. And then you're there. So they're going to throw everything at you just through this area here. Now driving in to get these blocks, of course, is much easier, because then you're empty. You know, and then the Derry Special has a little bit more leeway with the power and what he can do and what he can't do. But once you put these blocks on, you have to toe the line and drive that track the way it should be driven, because if you go too far off road, you're going to flip it. And any kind of flipping is just going to create lots of problems for you. So you don't want to do that. You want to try and deliver the blocks in one shot without having any mistakes. And I've had enough of those already to last me the rest of the game. So, which is one of the reasons why I really slowed down and paid particular attention to where I'm driving and what the level of the ground is like. Trying to always think ahead before you get into any situation where you're going to get trapped or you can't get out of. So always try and do that and go a little bit slower, because if you go a little bit slower, anything happens, you can usually catch yourself in time and back out of it. But if you go too fast and something happens, you either can't stop yourself in time or you hit a rock and you bounce over and there is no way you're going to stop it from flipping. So best thing to do is just to slow down a little bit and take a little bit extra time. Now we're getting close to the highway. Getting pretty close to the highway now, and once we get up there, then it'll be easy street for the rest of the trip. Well, I tell you, this was one long job, and I only showed the last one, but you can see how long it takes, and I had to do that 4 times. I've already pre-done it 3 times, like I said, and it takes a long time to do. There's quite a ways to go, especially through here, this 4-wheeling part. But if you take it slow, like I said, and you look at where you're going, see, it's hard to see that you're supposed to turn there until you get right at the turn, and then you can see it. A little bit of a steep section there. But I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to get us there. Highway's just up top there. And we're almost there to deliver the 2 last Slate blocks. It's just like playing with a couple of big blocks, just heavy blocks. Here we're back on the highway. We'll change that time ahead so we can see what we're doing. There we go. All right. And we're off and running, boys. Let's go. I always try to show a little bit of the side of the truck and maybe a little bit of the front of the truck. And, usually it looks all right. I seem to do when I watch it afterwards, it seems to look fairly decent. However, every once in a while I'm not paying attention and I drive the truck over a little bit too far. So you're just going to have to kind of put up with me for a little bit every once in a while when I make a tiny little faux pas like that. See, a little bit too far to the one side, and as we're coming around the corner here, I don't turn enough, and we're going to almost take out that guardrail. Okay. At least the open fit, I'm going to give myself a couple of good marks for trying, just for effort. We're going to keep trying until we get better. Everything you have to practice until you get a little bit better. So as we're coming down the road here, we're going to be heading downhill. We got a tiny little detour, and then we're right at the concrete factory warehouse. Absolutely awesome game. I just love driving these trucks. Boy, I tell you, this is so much fun. If you ever get an opportunity to drive one of these trucks, a SnowRunner, or play some of the other games on the PlayStation, they're just fantastic. Here we are, and there's the factory. And here we are with that tiny little detour. And there again, like I said before, going through this detour, just keep an eye on that you're in the middle of the detour. And on the other side where you're coming out, don't cut the corner too tight. I did that one time, and I hit that last rock on the left-hand side with my truck because I cut it too tight. And it ended up, the one on the bottom there, and I ended up flipping the truck. So try not to do that. And I hope you had a good time watching this video. Hope you got a few tips and tricks out of it. And hope to see you back at OpenFed Gaming again real soon as we bring more exciting episodes of SnowRunner. Until then, you've been delivering some Slate Blocks in a Derry Special with me, the Opafat.